Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is post-match reaction showtime after Liverpool have secured yet another 3 points in what surely is now becoming an unstoppable, unassailable procession towards that elusive 19th Premier League title. This time it is West Ham who essentially fell on their own sword at the end of the day, blowing a 2-1 lead to lose 3-2 at Anfield. At the end of the day, it is just inevitable that whatever you try and do against this Liverpool side, they will always, no matter what, come out victorious, and that is once again what happened at Anfield this evening. It was a lot tighter than previous games, although to be fair, we've had more than our fair share of 1-goal wins this season. That tends to be how Liverpool have won their matches. Sometimes that's down to games like today, where it has been, a real slog, a real stretch, and we've had to really work for it. Other times it's where, we've just managed a game very well and gone 1-0 up and just sat on that lead because there's no need to do anything else. But either way, no matter what, this Liverpool side just knows how to get the job done, and it's something that gets said about them a lot, that there is no typical Liverpool goal. There's no typical goal that you can look at and identify really and say that that is the archetypal goal, and that half of their goals or anything like that are scored that way. They can just score in any way possible, and today was yet another example of that. You've got the Wijnaldum header, which is an absolutely fantastic bit of movement and then technique to head it away in the box. You've then got the Mo Salah goal, which, okay, yeah, the question marks over the goalkeeper and then some, but it's again fantastic movement by Mo Salah to create that space for himself, and also a brilliant ball from Andrew Robertson. And then the third goal, there's a slight element of luck with the way the ball bounces off of Mark Noble, but you really do make your own luck. It's like, I can't fathom this idea that Liverpool have been lucky because of the amount of wins they've got this season, especially when it comes to these 1-goal wins. Anyone who understands football and plays football, and anyone who's certainly played against this Liverpool side, knows that they absolutely make their own luck. And when you look at the stats from today's game, the possession Liverpool have had, the absolutely mammoth quantity of shots. I think last time they showed the stat towards the end of the game, we'd had 24 shots or something ridiculous like that. When you're just creating that many opportunities, when you're banging on the door that often, occasionally things will just break for you through sheer force and pressure that's being piled on the opponent. I think it's a cliche that gets repeated an awful lot, but maybe West Ham did score too early, going 2-1 up that early on in the game. As soon as they went 2-1 up, Liverpool just decided, right, you've got absolutely no chance of getting anything out of this game. The crowd decided it as well, which was absolutely fantastic. It was great to see that synergy between the players on the pitch and the way they raise their game once the goal goes in and they realised they had a full half hour to really turn the game around. And the fans doing the exact same thing. Everyone just got up for it, just went for it at the exact same time. And as a result, it feels like we can't really criticise the players for waiting until that hour mark to really start putting the pressure on. Can't really criticise them for waiting until there was something to lose before they started playing like they really wanted to win, because the fans acted exactly the same way at the end of the day. And I think all of us, myself included, I talked about it all the way through the pre-match video, didn't really saw this game as a non-event essentially. And to West Ham's credit, they did their absolute best to change that. They gave Liverpool a fairly decent game. I think on another day, we probably don't end up making such a meal of that game. At the end of the day, again, once you look at the stats, and it's sometimes reductionary to do so, but they do paint a fairly decent picture of the game. When you look at them, West Ham clearly were not creating much at all. I haven't seen anything like the expected goals coming out of the game, but I think 2 goals certainly flatters them. The first goal is just a little bit disappointing in terms of the marking isn't fantastic, and it's a good cross as well, the way it comes in low. It's difficult for Liverpool to defend, and it's a good header as well from Diop to divert it into that place where it just catches Alisson off guard. I don't think he's expecting the cross to come in there. I don't think he's expecting Diop to get his head to the ball, and as a result his positioning is completely off and the ball ends up going in. The second goal is just, I'm not really sure what's going on with the defence at all, to be honest. I don't know how he's been given that much space in the box, but again, it's a shanked shot from him, and it's quite fortunate for him that the ball ends up going in. And it's testament to how brilliant this Liverpool side is, that when things aren't necessarily going our way going forward, we're having all those shots, all those chances, and we're not managing to put the ball in the back of the net. I also think John Mosh was a little bit harsh on us at times. I don't want to go on too much about the referee, because anyone who saw my video after the Atletico game knows that there was more than enough analysis of the officiating in that game. I don't need to bang on it too often, but anyone who's also seen some of my other previous videos will know my opinions on John Moss. We don't need to get into that too much. Let's just say I don't think he's a very good referee, and I think there were plenty of shouts that could have gone either way today that ended up not going in Liverpool's favour. And also, when things do go West Ham's favour in terms of, not necessarily them getting luck, but a little bit of fortune with the fact that the few chances they did create did end up in the back of the net. it's testament to how brilliant this Liverpool side is that they can still dig it out. I thought the Oxlade-Chamberlain substitution on the hour mark was absolutely fantastic. Completely changed the game. I mean, I wanted Naby Keita to start this game. I think a lot of Liverpool fans did want Naby Keita to start this game. That seemed to be the common consensus we felt with West Ham's low block and everything like that. Having a very technically gifted player who can dribble the ball very well, who can pass the ball very well, operating in that midfield area would be absolutely fantastic for Liverpool. It felt like that was going to be the case. It just didn't quite come off for him. I don't know whether, I think it was a slightly off night for Naby Keita. It wasn't his best performance by any stretch of the imagination in a Liverpool shirt, and we know that he is capable of better than what he showcased tonight. And he will have his opportunities, of course. We've got another 3 weeks or so until Jordan Henderson comes back, and we've got plenty of big games, including that Champions League tie against Atletico Madrid coming up, where Naby Keita will have more chances to prove himself. But based on tonight's evidence, it just wasn't a great showing from the lad. And I think once Oxlade-Chamberlain came on, it was around that hour mark where things very much shifted. The tempo shifted in Liverpool's favour. All the pressure was suddenly being piled on West Ham, and I think Oxlade-Chamberlain was very much intrinsic to that. And I think the game definitely swung in the favour of an Oxlade-Chamberlain type player at that point, because the main reason I think most of us weren't really too keen on him starting the game over Naby Keita was because he doesn't quite have that ability to play in tight spaces and stuff like that. He's much more of a pressing midfielder. He plays very well on the counter-attack. He works in those kind of Champions League matches. We look back to those iconic performances against Manchester City in the Champions League, where that was probably the best we've ever seen of Oxlade-Chamberlain in a Liverpool shirt. Looking back to that, we kind of think those games suit him, and these games where a team sits off aren't really suited to his style. But because of the way the game just completely went a little bit mad for a bit, I think it's fair to say, for about 10 minutes at least, once West Ham scored, they didn't really seem to know what to do with themselves. They didn't settle back into the expected routine where we thought they'd sit so many men behind the ball. They couldn't seem to really decide whether to actually try and go for another goal or sit back, and as a result these spaces opened up. Their defence was constantly, the line was shifting forwards and back, and that meant that spaces were constantly popping up for a player like Oxlade-Chamberlain, and I think it definitely changed the game having on. And I think it benefited the front three as well, because it allowed them to push up a little bit more. It meant none of them had to drop inside. It almost became like a 4-2-1-3 essentially, where you have Fabinho and Wijnaldum as the two deep line midfielders, and Oxlade-Chamberlain acting as much more of a link player between those midfielders and the attack. And like I said, having Ox operate in that hole was just dragging the defence around a little bit, and also freeing up the attackers to push an extra 5 yards up the pitch. We didn't have to see Firmino or Mane or Salah dropping deep to receive the ball anymore, because Oxlade-Chamberlain was fulfilling that role for them. And oh, that's gone. That was inevitably going to happen. One sec. Right, fingers crossed that holds until the end of the video. But anyway, it just completely changed the game. Oxlade-Chamberlain, it ended up being, like I said, an inspired substitution. He suited the setup perfectly, and from there on in, it almost felt inevitable that Liverpool were going to win. And it's been a while since we've had those games. Certainly in the first half of the season, you had a lot of matches where we got put under the cosh. We go 1-0 down, or a team would drag the game back with a scrawny equaliser or something like that, and you'd always feel like Liverpool had a handle on things, that they'd be able to pull it out the fire. Happened so many times towards the back end of last season, and it feels like over the last few games it's almost calmed down a little bit. Liverpool have managed to suppress opposition teams. I think some of that is down to the fact that we win so often, we win so relentlessly, that teams almost do throw in the towel. They don't try and have a go, and it's probably down to simply the fact that West Ham had no choice but to have a go in this game. You look back even to our previous game against them a month ago, they completely gave up once they went 1-0 down, and we didn't see anything like that today, because they are in the relegation zone. They are desperate for points, and we're going to start seeing that more and more between now and the end of the season. We're going to start seeing teams who've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, and they don't care whether they've got a 1% chance or a 10% chance of winning. They will still throw the kitchen sink at Liverpool on that very, very slim chance that A, they can get themselves into the game, and then B, they can just cling on to it for dear life. And it feels like that second part, clinging on to the lead or even a draw, is the really, really difficult bit, because when Liverpool switch it on like they did today, you've almost got no chance. And it gives me a lot of hope going in towards the end of the season, going into massive, massive games about that Atletico tie, that, you know, with the league already pretty much wrapped up, all of our minds are almost laser focused on that game now, preparing for it, working out a strategy, working out a plan, getting the players psyched up, getting everyone in form to try and take on that challenge. And based on today's evidence, they are more than ready for it. I thought as a team performance, it was absolutely fantastic. Defensively, sometimes left a little bit to be desired, which is understandable when you can see 2 goals to a team that is pretty much in the relegation zone, I think, at this stage. If not, they are 17th or 16th, somewhere like that in the table. But Liverpool's ability to pull it out the fire as usual was absolutely fantastic, and testament to that team ethic as well. I thought players like Andrew Robertson definitely stood out as being fantastic, defending from the front, constantly recycling the ball. You know, when we were really trying to put the pressure on and make it this relentless siege on the West Ham goal that they simply could not keep up against for half an hour, Andrew Robertson was central to that, always recycling possession, always in the right place at the right time, never giving up any cause as well. You know, he just seemed to have an extra 5 yards of pace on every single other player on the pitch, both in a red shirt and the white shirt. Every time there was a loose ball, it didn't matter if a West Ham player was closer to it. Andrew Robertson was getting there first, and I think he absolutely deserves to have an assist to take away from that performance, regardless of how spawny the goal was, going through Fabianski's legs and stuff like that. Trent Alexander-Arnold as well bags a customary 2 assists. It's a shame that the VAR takes the last goal off him, but of course, it's so blatantly offside. It's almost annoying that the linesman didn't flag earlier because, you know, a blind man, well, couldn't have seen it, but you see what I mean. It was very, very clear that Sadio Mane was in an offside position at that point. It would have been nice for Trent to get a hat-trick assist, but two assists at the end of the day and 3 Premier League points. I think he'll be happier than most going to bed tonight. So I thought he was very, very solid all the way through the game. Had some lovely shots from distance as well. Was always in the right position, you know, finding the gaps in the West Ham defence as well when they were getting dragged out of shape, which is again testament to the front three and their movement and stuff like that. Trent was always on hand to then occupy the spaces that were left behind, whether it was to then whip a cross in or get a shot or anything like that, or simply just drive the ball in so he could win a corner and keep the pressure on. He was constantly taking up the right positions to keep things going, and it felt like Liverpool knew they were going to win the game at no matter what point. One of my favourite moments was there's a shot of the West Ham player celebrating Fornals when they go 2-1 up and he's knee sliding, and you can see in the background Trent Alexander-Arnold and Joe Gomez giving him the dirtiest look imaginable, as if to say, as if you've got the audacity to think you're not losing this game. That's the mentality that this Liverpool team has got at the moment. They go into difficult situations with that kind of belief, that kind of arrogance that's so central to the best teams in football, that they just believe they are going to win. And the fans have that as well, and that is what is fantastic. Like I said, the fans and the players are existing in perfect synergy at the moment, and they are driving this team forward utterly relentlessly towards that 19th Premier League title. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the match in the comments down below. Let me know who you thought your man of the match was, what you thought of the performance, everything like that. I'd love to hear it. Let me know down below. Apart from that, don't forget to hit the like button down there as well if you enjoyed the video. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to follow at LIVWHU TV on Twitter, and I'll be back soon with the pre-match content for that game against Watford at the weekend. Until then, bye for now.